Right, thank you.
Mhm.
From classroom to career, advocating for computer science as workforce development, promoting computer science to build future job skills. So this is my presentation. One moment. Uh-uh. So setting the context and the purpose. As you can see, we started off with kindergarten students on this picture because it's never too early. The presentation purpose, audience, and outcomes. So this presentation was used to talk to our local state congressman at the State House. My students were invited K through 12 to show off what they have been learning and to promote CS as a core workforce development strategy. The attendees will gain understanding of CS's role in education and how to position it within CTE systems effectively. And this session will equip educators with advocacy strategies, policy language, and tools for engaging decision makers confidently. We're going to focus on aligning computer science education with the Perkins 5 funding, program standards, and state accountability measures for impact. Problem solving is our superpower. We're here to help you be an invention education hero. The why. Setting the stakes. Ohio's economy needs digitally skilled graduates, and our schools need the resources to deliver them. If you have your phones and can join me, would you please join the Slido? In one word, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear or think about computer science? I see one person is typing coding, 21st century, math. Very good. That's where I'm going next. Problem solving, always. And science, yes. So, as you know, computer science uses all of our core academic classes. And so, math and science are directly tied to coding, integration, yes, reading comprehension. Thank you, guys. So, Ohio's workforce signal, there is a disconnect between current graduation requirements and the 21st century labor market, and it's a critical skills gap. Right now, we have 2,600 43 plus jobs listed in Ohio, immediate openings, from software developer to systems analysts. 17,000 are just in Northeast Ohio alone. And as you can see, some of my invention convention, I am the chairperson for Ohio's Invention League. We just opened a new hub up there because the demand is so high. So they want to start the pre-K in the hubs learning computer science. And this is just prior, the 12 months prior, well, really since October of 2025. The opportunity gap, there are 116,000 people who are unemployed with digital skills. Think about the people at your school. How many of them come to you to ask you to figure out something that is so simple as, did you unplug the computer? Did you restart? Did you clear your cookies? Um, they lack the foundational digital literacy needed for modern day entry level roles. So, computer science is the new literacy beyond coding, computational thinking, developing algorithmic problem solving skills that apply across all disciplines, from math to social studies. The skills that they gain, decomposition and pattern recognition, breaking down the problem. Computer science isn't just syntax, it's about a new way of thinking essential for our new modern world. Data analysis empowers our students to collect, analyze, and visualize data to make informed decisions and automate tasks. They receive informational literacy and automation, which is in all the ELA standards. Cybersecurity, our next growing field. We need a lot of people in this field. It's understanding digital ethics, privacy, and network security to navigate and protect our digital landscapes. So, they gain digital entrepreneurship and safety. which many people have not thought about as a job. Human-centered design, designing technology solutions that solve real human needs through systems thinking and empathy. UX, user experience design, and empathy. So computer coding, the new literacy, what you see there is a game controller and a microbit. I am also an ambassador for Forward Education, and they send over a lot of things for us to practice. I'm going to play a short video from CBS on why it's important for us to start early.
Our cell phones, laptops, cars, planes, security systems, and much more operate because of something called coding. Experts say the need for this skill is exploding and more schools need to teach it. In this original report, we meet local kids learning to code.
Do you want to do some programming on the iPads?
Yeah. These first through third graders learning computer coding are among the minority.
It's the same code, except
how to use computers, and it's very fun.
They attend coding club at Middle Fork Elementary in Northfield. One of only about 10% of U.S. schools provide any coding education.
There's not enough schools teaching kids to code it.
Gretchen Hubner is co-creator of Equitable, a coding curriculum used at various schools in 100 countries. Students use arrows and symbols to program the movements of fuzzy aliens. Code it wrong, and you have to try again. It's similar to how they program bee-bots to travel a maze, sometimes correctly, sometimes not. Out of the life lesson, says Principal Dr. Mary Frances Green.
And it just becomes just something that didn't work right as opposed to I failed.
You need to analyze, how did I get it wrong? Just persevere and keep on doing it.
It really does promote critical thinking, planning, sequential thinking, cause and effect,
and can prepare students for their future.
We use technology every minute of every day almost. So it's important to understand how that technology is created, not just how to use it.
Coding is like the new literacy because it's their current world, their digital world.
Which also includes 3D modeling and printing.
I 3D printed my name. It's really cool because you don't just see one side, you see the whole.
These types of lessons are mandated curriculum in other countries.
The United Kingdom, China, and Estonia.
Hubner hopes her program, designed to also attract more girls, will get both genders coding. It's working here.
Girls can do it, and as good as boys sometimes better.
Sometimes better. To find lessons you can do at home along with coding camps and clubs, go to cbschicago.com. We have a link to code.org. That organization says in 5 years there will be 1 million more computing jobs than students graduating with computer science degrees. By the way, one student in our story is related to a CPA.
So that's a big number. When people hear computer science, they just think of one way. The young lady with the 3D block, she showed us all the ways that we could think of coding. And when we did the survey, we mentioned that. So the Career Tech Advantage provides the sustainable vehicle to scale computer science programs statewide. This is my Girls Who Code Club first semester. So the significant federal investment, Ohio received $53 million in Perkins funds for fiscal year 24 alone. Funds can legally cover high-tech equipment, industry-recognized credentials, and work-based learning coordination. The reason why we put that, I teach 8th grade computer science. I teach 6 through 8, but my 8th graders receive high school credit for my class. This year, most of my students left between 7 and 9 credits because of the industry recognized credentials. They did a Lead for Change project, which Department of Education gave them 3 credits. I also certified them in CPR First Aid, which is 1 credit, which has already transferred over to their high school transcripts. And we just reduced our graduation credits from 22 to 20. So my students are almost halfway with their graduation requirements. And then it aligns with the pathways. Structured CTE pathways ensure students graduate with both a diploma and a marketable skill. Communicating effectively. So this is the State House. We go every January, but this year I've been invited 3 times. We went in February, January, and we'll be back in December to communicate effectively with the policymakers. If you shift the vocabulary to align with the economic stability and return on investment priorities, they tend to listen to you more. So our teacher focused language, students love gaming. Translate that to a senator or their representative. Students are developing computational thinking skills, and this is where my projects come in. Our students build vending machines, they build shoes with medical necessity helps using the microbit. They also build wearables, again with microbits, just in case someone has amnesia, clubfoot, or maybe even a veteran that may have lost their leg in war. Instead of saying we need more computers, we need to bridge the digital divide for workforce equity. Then they start to see where the change is needed. Coding is fun. We just say computer science is a high skill, high wage, in demand career path, and we look at that on the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Computer science is a great class. This program meets industry aligned standards, and when we show them about the IRCs, they really get excited. The 4 policy levers: dedicated funding, establish funding for computer science teacher professional development, because a lot of our teachers here in Ohio are put into these positions with little to no knowledge or training, addressing the number one barrier to implementation. It is becoming a graduation requirement, so moving CS from an elective to core math or science credit, class of 2032 proposal, it has moved to ensure equitable access for all students. Make it part of career tech integration, which we have done in Columbus City. It ensures the computer science courses are recognized as a CTE concentrator to unlock sustainable Perkins funding. And then a work-based learning incentive. It creates tax credits or liability protections for the business that offer internships. And right now we have Ohio State University Hospital. We have Nationwide Children's Hospital. Mount Carmel has also signed on. They take our students, and so during the year, they do an internship. In the summer, they're paid, and then after graduation, they are hired. And so when I say the summer, they can start as early as age 14. And it's just not learning the hospital patient care, it is also learning the coding, the tech repair. So here's a picture of some of my parents and stuff as we sat in the State House in the Senate chambers. Some of my students received a letter from the House of Representatives due to their inventions and work. Why this language works: 23% wage premium increase for workers moving from zero to just one digital skill. It isn't about coding, it's about employability. It aligns with Ohio's investment, directly supports the talent pipeline needed for major state projects like Intel and Honda, ensuring local students fill these high demand roles. It stabilizes our tax base. Higher wages mean a stronger local economy. Computer science pathways lead to careers that are reliant against automation and economic downturns. And it also reduces the time to hire. As we know, that takes a lot. Our students come out with verified skills and credentials to reduce vacancy in critical sectors. So this is a copy of the testimony in support of State Bill 326, Computer Science and AI Literacy. A lot of us teachers came, we spoke. It did pass. We did have to take out some language. It wasn't a just easy, we're here speaking, but we did get what we want, and we are making computer science regular part of reading or science, ELA, math or science course. So making the strategic ask. This is a picture of me standing at the State House making the strategic ask. It's better when our students talk to our legislators. They can hear how this experience has structured their education, increased accessibility for all types of students, prepared them for workforce readiness, and it modernized the academic rigor. It integrated computational thinking without diminishing any educational standards. So we recognize computer science as a CTE concentrator and pathway through our funding, through our credentials, through our alignment with Ohio's workforce. And then we have been tracking our outcomes and ROI, and our students are demonstrating that it was worth the effort to put in to them so that they can put out to our workforce. These are two of my students from Taiwan. They were over here on a visa. They took one of our computer science projects, went into Invention League, and then they won the $200 for their straight A pencil vending machine. Again, it shows that they were resilient, they persevered, they took a project, they made it into a need for all students, and then they sold their invention as a Shark Tank. So it addresses all employer concerns. Are these students ready? Do they have the skills? They do. It also gives the policy incentive benefits, tax credits, liability. It lasts on the workforce development, and then it is an educational collaborative approach. So it's beneficial for just both the schools and the employers. Change makers for Ohio advocate for our students. We're going to play the end of this message.
Represents a brilliant intersection of education, workforce development, and entrepreneurship. By encouraging our youth to innovate and dream big, we are helping to shape a more prosperous, forward-thinking future of Ohio and the world. Let's continue to support these incredible young minds and provide them with the tools and opportunities that they need to succeed. And
All right. So as you can see, the picture probably it's on my left, maybe on your right, depending on how you're sitting. They're training for the jobs of tomorrow. One of the students is actually doing auto mechanics. The other student is laying broadband wire. These students train on 32 activities through our VR headsets. And they actually when they go into high school next year, they will start working in this CTE path. So not only are they receiving the computer science knowledge, they are also receiving the hands-on training. Empowering educators as advocates. We have to advocate for ourselves. If not, they won't hear us. We use student and teacher stories to drive change. When I found that Dr. McKenzie was teaching computer science, I was overjoyed. She is intentional in making sure that we learn, and she makes us present our projects. In my country, we never use computers. Dr. McKenzie has made coding fun using projects, hands-on lessons, and making sure that we understood the language, which we code in Python in my class. This is an educator. As a teacher, Dr. McKenzie has changed this class. At first, all the students did was work on a computer. Now they have games, web exercises, and she doesn't mind teaching the staff to incorporate it in every class across our school. High demand careers. Data science jobs are projected to grow by 36% between 2021 and 2031. We're in 2026, far outpacing many other fields. Early exposure helps students imagine themselves in these roles. This is our Lead for Change scan here, Accessible EV Ohio app that we won the grant for, and they received high school credit for. If you want to look at the QR code, you would have to sign in with your Gmail or some other email address, but it shows you all of the EV accessible stations. It tells you if they're handicap accessible, if they take cash or credit only, if there's restroom, well lighting, and it also gives you the deserts in here. It tells you exactly where to go. We don't collect any personal information, but we do ask you to rate it. And this was made by my 7th graders, and they're presenting, as you see in front of my smartboard in my class. So some of the words you heard in the videos, again, is going to come up: curiosity, critical thinking, concise data presentation. In 5 years, there will be 1 million more computing jobs in computer science, students graduating with degrees. We invite our legislators for engagement all the time, and they usually show up for us. We have also built an app for Drive Ohio, which lets drivers across Ohio know where to charge their cars, what types of chargers are available, and what types of accessibility features are present for people with disabilities, and it updates in real time. We also build relationships through experience. Our students were able to meet with Representative Anita Samani in the House of Representatives and Senator Beth Liston. That was this past February. They were both impressed with the work our students were doing and making coding accessible to everyone. Now we will go ahead and move over to Misty, closing the gender gap.
Thank you so much. Okay, let's see. Okay. So thank you all for um, coming tonight. And I am excited to kind of pick up because I was very blessed to have been placed in a group with Dr. McKenzie because of the things that I heard during my listening time over the last couple of years is that there's kind of a misconception among the young ladies as to what computer science is, and it is contributing to the gender gap in the computer science classroom. And so one of my goals was and is because it's very much an active goal, is trying to reduce that gender gap. And so I'm going to share with you a little bit about what I have learned along the way. So if you are a computer science teacher, grab your device for me and answer this question. Let me know how many female students you have in your CS classes. All right, so far we have 4 responses, 5 responses. So y'all have a decent bit, a decent number of young ladies in your computer science classes, which is very exciting. My number is maybe 1 to 2 per class out of about 5 classes. So now if we were to compare that to the number of young men that we have in our classes, it might not look or sound that great. But where any number is a good number, I feel like. It's just got to get a lot higher. So let's talk about the gender gap in the classroom. So gender gaps in computer science increase as students get older, especially in secondary school. Girls often have similar or improving skills, but lower confidence and self-efficacy than boys do. So it's not the gender gap is not because the young ladies can't do what is asked of them in the computer science classroom. Studies point to several factors behind this reason, one of them being social stereotypes about who belongs in tech, classroom environments, and confidence differences that build over time. And the research really hit home whenever I surveyed my own students. This current school year is a new year in a new district for me. And so I surveyed students at my previous school last year. I surveyed my students this year, but it all pretty much sounded the same whenever you got down to it. I asked them how they felt as girls in computer science classes where the majority of other students were boys. And my heart started to break as I read responses like, I wish there were more girls. And it sometimes makes me feel out of place. But some did show resilience, and they just stated it depends on the situation. I wish I had a little bit more information about that, but I tried to keep it as anonymous as possible to make them feel like they could really say whatever they felt like they needed to say in the survey. So, leading into my Girls Who Code Club experience, part of what has gotten me here, let me share that with you. I've been teaching computer science since 2013, so for about 12 years now. And beyond the classroom, I've been involved in curriculum development and professional initiatives focused on expanding access to computer science. And that includes programs like the Mississippi AI Educator Accelerator, and as some of you may know, the Amazon Future Engineer Teacher Ambassador Program. And all of those are centered around increasing opportunity and access and awareness in computer science education. Now, across all of those experiences, one pattern keeps showing up, and it's that girls are capable. They are curious. They're creative, but they don't always feel like they belong. Now, as a computer science teacher and as a mom, this feels even more personal because I want the next generation, including my own daughter, to walk into tech spaces knowing already that they belong there. This is Bailey. She likes pink, she likes to dance, and she likes to code and build robots. That's what she did this afternoon whenever I had about 40 minutes left of class to teach. And whenever she would say, this is hard, I, but it's fun. It's hard, but it's fun because, and y'all know this as teachers, whenever that student faces that challenge and then they get it, it's their happiness in that moment is that's what it's all about. So the encouraging part is that this current problem with the gender gap doesn't have to stay this way. We can change it because confidence is built. Belonging can be created, and environments can change as long as we are intentional about those things. So the same research that identifies this gap also tells us something hopeful. When girls are given early, supportive, community-centered experiences in computer science, those gaps shrink. All of that listening that I've done led me to one conclusion, or many conclusions, honestly, but one that I want to focus on tonight. If belonging doesn't happen automatically, we have to build it intentionally. And that's exactly what the Girls Who Code Club is designed to provide, not just instruction, but community, encouragement, and space to grow. The organization started in 2012 when the founder, Reshma Saujani, noticed that boys were consistently raising their hands for tech opportunities more than girls. And she realized the issue wasn't ability, it was confidence, representation, and belonging. And that mission that led her to start the entire organization is what led me to start a Girls Who Code Club at my school. So, quick experiment. If you would, please open your search engine of choice and type in the phrase computer programmer and look at the image results. And you can scan the QR code or, well, you probably can't click the link, but if you scan the QR code, you can type in um, words of just plain observation, what you see when you do that Google search. Gonna hop over to Mentimeter and come down here. Maybe. So let's see. If I type in computer programmer and go to images, I have multiple screens, some people, a keyboard, right? Because you have to type. It's pretty much men though, right? And of the men, they are mostly lighter skinned. All right. This image is new, or it's newer than some of these others. And as you can see, this one repeats. So, um, that's what our students are seeing whenever they search for images that could be a possible career choice for them. And when the images that we see don't reflect us, it can subtly send the message that maybe we don't belong. And my students echoed that in their responses. A student said, whenever I asked what representation changes for them, they said that it shows diversity as well as letting others know that girls can do something that's predominantly done by boys. Another said it would definitely help me speak up. And yet another said, I just want someone to talk to instead of all boys. If you haven't been in a high school classroom with a lot of boys lately, the conversation is not very riveting from a female perspective. So, and this is not about numbers. These responses here are about belonging. So, how do you start a club? Well, the first thing that I did was find a student that wanted one. There's a famous quote from a movie that says, if you build it, they will come. And that applies here too. I asked a couple of the girls from my classes who showed interest in the content. And when one of them said yes, she added that she was actually surprised when she got to the high school. She is currently in the 10th grade, so 9th and 10th grade. She was surprised when she got to the high school and found that there were no coding clubs that she could join. So I had my president, and then I had to complete some paperwork, and the future club president had to sign a permission slip. and I had to put together a report with club information, including, but not limited to, a list of subjects and topics that would be discussed or promoted by the club, a statement or agreement that the club and guests and members will abide by all rules and regulations and policies of our school district and or reasonable direction of its principal or assistant principals, and a club statement on allowing multiple club statements. And of course, a link for administration to review the club at the national level. And then after that was signed off by the principal, it had to be sent to the school board. And I had never experienced quite a lengthy process of starting a club, because in my old district, all you had to have was a student who said, "Hey, can you sponsor this club?" And then it was there. And that was it. So it was a new experience. And if you don't have someone at your school that kind of knows those things that you can go to, I recommend you find somebody. And then in the future, you can be that person for someone else. So, of course, find your interested students. Um, the girls in my classes, because they don't have a lot of girls in the class with them, they have a hard time feeling like they belong in the class. But when it comes to the club, they can bring their friends in with them, and it creates a different environment for them to learn and just enjoy coding. So find an interested student and then have them bring a friend, and then go through your school's channels to get approval for starting the club. And once approved, you can apply for the club on the Girls Who Code website. Once you've been approved, you can create the application for a club from the Girls Who Code website. And if starting a club is something that interests you, you can actually create an account and explore the resources without actually having a club. And the Girls Who Code organization provides a lot of support for the clubs, and they include the meetings include sisterhood activities, tech spotlights for women in tech, and coding activities. So if you would like to explore those resources, you can scan that QR code and take a look at those. The order that they give those the order of those bullet points is very much relevant, because belonging is one of the most important parts of a club. And so this sisterhood activity is to help the girls get to know each other and to kind of really build that bond and the friendship. And then the tech spotlights, like what we've mentioned with seeing representation, the tech spotlight allows the girls to see people who look like them doing amazing things in computer science. Like, we should be talking about them more, but we don't hear about these ladies enough. And then we have the coding activities, so something that they can enjoy together. So inside of the Girls Who Code website, you will find a facilitator toolkit also, and that includes some tutorials and also some ready-made slides that make it really easy to facilitate a club meeting. And this is an example of what the homepage looks like for once you log in. And it's really great. It's a great organization, and I've enjoyed being part of it for this year. And I really hope to grow the group of girls that we have And I believe that Girls Who Code also provides you a $250 stipend for Amazon to purchase pre-approved items that you can use in the club. And that includes snacks and drinks, along with some technology, because you know these kids are always hungry. They are always hungry, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, after first block, after second block, it really doesn't matter. They're always hungry. And so food is a good way to entice some of them to come to the club. And that is going to be the end of what I have to share with you. And I am going to stop sharing my screen, I think. I actually don't know how to stop sharing my screen. I'm sorry. Oh, wait, there's a
See
stop
the
share
red
button.
button? Mm-hmm.
Bless it. Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Misty. That was great. Thank you so much. Very timely. I have a 13-year-old daughter that's getting ready to go to high school next year and been encouraging her to, take a coding class, check out computer science. And she says a lot of what you mentioned, like it's all boys in there and the boys are musty or whatever, whatever they say.
Look, okay, she's not wrong, okay, because some of them literally think that 72-hour deodorant can be worn for 72 hours straight without any reapplication or showering. I am not even kidding. But
Wow.
and that's the thing, as a woman, I have plenty of air freshener from Bath and Body Works, and I try to make it smell good for the ladies because I know the boys are not helping.
That's a thing. That is surely a thing. Thank you so much, Misty. All right. Who is up next?
I think that they had signed it up for it to be me, so I'm going to jump on that. Let's see. It's really hard going behind them because they are so great.
You got this, Brian.
All right, let's see. So I'm gonna start mine with a sort of an anecdote kind of. Um, it's we all have that, senior that you run into that literally is brilliant, has all the skill sets, doing everything that you want to have happen in the class, but then they run into some complications in life and they miss a couple of days. So for me, what really made this hit home for me was that, and I'm not going to use the student's real name, so I'm going to call her Aisha. But I had a student named Aisha who was a senior, ended up in a car accident and missed like, 5 straight days of class. And then after that, it was complication after complication after complication that led her to where she literally just did not finish the pathway. She was a great student, but just one little barrier prevented her from being where she probably would have ended up. And so, when I started taking the time to ponder this, I'm like, okay, how can we fix some of the problems that we're seeing in this particular scenario? And so that's what my presentation centered around is literally going and like, let's engineer these pathways so that we can actually get to the outcomes that we're looking to get to. So I'm Brian Ubaka Blackmore. Been at this for about 24 years now. Um, I'm in the room with great people, and we're going to dive right in. All right. So, like Dr. McKenzie was getting into, I live in Georgia. And so I was very much enthralled by the presentation that she gave when she started giving the economic numbers. But what we're seeing in the state of Georgia is that Georgia is touting itself as being the number one state for business. And in all intents and purposes, if you actually look at the data, Georgia is the number one state for business. We have more businesses moving here than any other state from that guideline. But at the same token, Georgia underutilizes its workforce by approximately 40%, which makes us literally 28th nationally in the usage of our talent. So in essence, what we're doing is that we are literally bringing the jobs to Georgia, and then we have to import people to actually fill them. And so what it told me was that there's a disconnect between what's happening in education and what the outcomes are actually when we start looking at them once we get them out of the high school. So with that in mind, I was like, okay, so what's really going on? And so I was started looking at the access myth. I work at a Title I school in probably the third largest county in the state of Georgia. We have 140 different pathways available to the students. But what ends up happening is that the students, as they are progressing through the pathways, they're getting knocked off one by one based on things. So the first one is that, oh, well, they didn't pass a class, or they don't necessarily have the GPA, or they don't have access to a vehicle, or they didn't put in their paperwork in enough time. So therefore, we're not going to provide them transportation. Like it's 100 different reasons as to why the kids are not being able to actually access these pathways. And then they'll take the best pathways and put them off campus. And then inside the building, you have administrators. They decide what pathways they want in their schools, and they choose which kids are going to actually get an option to be able to take them. So in essence, yeah, we have, so we had this concept. It's like, oh, we sit up in our faculty meetings, we sit up at these engagement meetings, and we say, oh, we're giving the kids access, we're giving the kids access, we're giving the kids access. But in reality, we're blocking them from the actual access. So it's available, but we're not letting the kids actually take advantage of it. And so that's one of those things of saying that, yeah, you provide the opportunity, but you're really providing a myth because if the student needs a car, or a perfect GPA or 30 days of administrative foresight, they're not going to make it. And therefore, that leads to that gap that we're seeing of the talent acquisition to what's available in the job market. So, what we all know is that a high school diploma without an aligned credential is like an unfinished bridge. What this gap is saying is that, okay, well, yeah, we provided them with the opportunity, we did this, we did that, but because we are not actually providing them with viable credentials, they're not able to actually go out here and perform. Or we're mandating it behind this idea that, okay, all the students are going to be able to go to college. Our state actually mandated that all CS is going to be in all the schools by 2032. They also just passed legislation that says, hey, we want these high impact careers. We're going to give you additional credits. We're going to give you additional rankings to be able to actually improve your systems. But then you have schools that literally go in, and the principal is like, oh, well, it's great that you built up this AI program, but I really want culinary, and I'm gonna shut down your AI program and bring in culinary. And it didn't matter that you had 40 kids that were ready to go into the third level class because that's what I wanted. Or, we start a threshold of, oh, well, this kid might benefit from being in this barber's class with a computer science focus, but because of the fact that we don't want to put it in the high school and he has a 1.5 GPA, we're never going to allow him access to that particular program, which might get him interested in school. So what I proposed in this was that we really need to start evolving the policy minimums to deliver some economic and align them with economic reality. So in essence, yeah, the ultimate goal is that we want everybody to get a high school diploma. That was the policy win that everybody gets. So right now, currently, at least in our county, the DeKalb County has an 87.5% graduation rate. When we start looking down the line, we got kids coming out of the collegiate world. We got kids coming out of the talent pool. We have kids coming out of the trade schools, but only 50% of them are actually getting the high paid jobs that we were promised. And the rest of it is going to people who are being imported in. We are seeing a rapid increase in improvement on the EOC test scores, but they're not aligning themselves with industry standards. So, you know, I at least applaud my director because what he decided to do is he says, "Hey, I'm gonna get all of my teachers with the Python certification. All of my teachers are going to get the Cisco certification. All of my teachers are going to get." Um, and he's trying to leverage the systems that are in place to help get the students on this goal. So I'm going to hold him to that standard. In the state of Georgia, funding has now become lottery based because they have lost value in the school system as it is. So we have a whole bunch of vouchers out here because what they're saying is to the teachers is that, oh, well, or not teachers, what they're saying to the population is that if you're unhappy with your school, you can take this voucher and we'll put you over here in a private school, or we can let you go over here to a charter school and you can take your money over there. In reality, the charter schools and the private schools are not offering what the public schools are offering. And they have a mandate that says that if these people don't meet this specific requirement, we're going to have them exit our system. Therefore, we can keep our numbers up. Um, so where we're at, we got this metrics. Well, we got this 82% graduation rate, and we wanted to go up every year. But when we look at the labor statistics, like I said, we got a 4% labor usage. So the kids that are coming out, if we say we got 100 kids coming out, only 40 of them are getting jobs in the state of Georgia. So I came up with a model, and so that's kind of the nature of what we're looking at, and it's the engineering and information technology model. And I think that it's a real solution to one of the issues that we have. Um, I've been networking with computer science teachers and people who work in the field of computer science for a long time. And what we know is that people who actually are in this field, they're very resilient and they're very resourceful. Most people who work in computer science, they might start off with the standard technology. So they'll use the code.orgs, they'll use the code HSs and things of that nature. But eventually, they're going to cross that threshold and they're going to want to start bringing in equipment. And I have definitely networked with some very brilliant people, and they're getting the equipment. My background's a little different because I came in from an engineering background. And so I wanted to incorporate this idea because we're both doing the same thing. We're teaching problem solving. And in that problem solving model, we can actually incorporate them doing both. And so I came up with this concept called the Forge, or which I implemented in my school. So we had the foundation, the opportunity, relevance, growth, and evaluation that's going to go into what they call a professional engineering and IT model setup. How this works? Well, the biggest issue is that we have a literacy problem in the country. That is not something can be understated. It was once proposed that computer science was going to fix that problem. That's not realistic because if a person can't read, they can't access the tools necessary in order for computer science to work. So we have no choice but to work on literacy. But where I was looking at it from the primary focus is that by the time they get to the high school, once you get past 13, it's very difficult to get a high schooler to change. If they are unable to read, they shell up. If they're very good at reading, they expand. And so, how do we leverage the tools to help them? So we can teach them the digital literacy skills. We can show them the ways to help themselves to be able to actually develop the logic and reasoning to meet the performance objectives and to start having realistic outcomes that will be able to assist them. So no, we're not going to be able to bridge the gap fully to where, every student is going to be reading, on the collegiate level. But what we do realize is that we can get every student to a point where, like, hey, they can get the Python entry certification, or they can get the A+ certification, or they can go out here from an engineering perspective and get the OSHA Plus certification, which will lead to their ability to access jobs. It gives them more opportunities. Now, these certifications alone are not guarantees, but it definitely increases um, the ability because right now for the state of Georgia, we currently have 186,000 jobs open and we have nobody to fill them. So in essence, I said, let's start from the back end. Since you all want to look at outcomes, let's look at outcomes. So I said, well, true relevance is going to require some reverse engineering. Let's go to the companies. Who's doing the hiring? Who's doing the looking? what are they looking for? And so you got your fintechs, you got your film techs, and you got your supply chain models. Amazon has, in the last 5, maybe 6 years, opened up 127 fulfillment centers in the state of Georgia. If I'm My math could be off, but I think that was the last number that I saw. They are now increasing the threshold of that. Yes, they're incorporating more robotics technology into that particular system. They're trying to get the legislation passed to be able to actually use drone technology for delivery systems. But logistics and supply chains is probably one of the most lucrative businesses in the country, and it's evolving, it's developing. But when we start tracing it back, what are the skill sets that the kids need to be able to apply for those jobs? And so that's going to go into, some skills that we can use. We can look at the PCEP or Python entry level training. We can look at the Autodesk training for Maya, Premiere, the Revits and all that. We can also get into the cloud networks with the AWS, the Googles, and that particular things. And all of these companies are offering certifications. Our system has already started looking into it, and the idea is to say, hey, you walk into this class. Our goal is that every year you're in a class, you're coming out with a certification, and we're going to build on it from the beginning. So my goal was to say, hey, you walk in, you're learning engineering, you're learning Python as a combined thing. The first year, you're supposed to be coming out with a CPEP certification because you should have enough information to be able to do that. Going into the next year, depending on which direction you're going to go, we may go to the OSHA, we may go to another particular certification. But by the time you graduate, you have a list of certifications plus your diploma, and you are aligning yourself with companies that actually see the value in what you're doing. And we're not just depending on this idea of a diploma. So, student growth relies on the continuous acquisition of professional identity. So, you go with Python, get our Autodesk certification so that they understand how these particular systems come together and they can design it. And then we push them as an AWS cloud practitioner. And eventually, whether they go to work for Amazon or they go work for Nestle, they have the skill sets necessary to be able to actually do the job. The growth is continuous with the acquisitions because we're going to go through a micro-credentialing process. Now, what our state did was is that they mandated probably 8 years ago, I think it's about 8 years ago, that what they were going to do is that they have a list of jobs that are considered high demand careers. Computer science and engineering are at the top of it, but of course, like culinary and a couple of other jobs are in there. Accounting, I think, just fell off, but I think that's more so dealing with national politics than it is for what it actually is. But what they're saying to the schools in order to try to get the principal on board is that for every um, for every pathway that you provide that's on this list of high demand careers, instead of giving you 1 point towards your college and career index performance, we're going to give you 1.5 points. Um, and then they started showing how this crosswalk aligns with the high paid jobs that they're showing in the state of Georgia. So Georgia, as far as the politicians and as the corporate community, they're saying, hey, we want to promote Georgia, and we're trying to put the funding behind it in order to make it happen. Now it's trying to get the administration, who basically makes the decision to whether or not they're going to pull it into the classrooms, in the um, understanding of, okay, this one is going to provide me more access than this one will. Because unfortunately, what we're seeing with a lot of administrators, because they've been up under the radar, is that they want to go for the easy class so that they can get more kids out instead of going for the hard measure, which will actually improve their numbers. But I do appreciate my colleagues. We know that hard paths make great people, and so we want to continue to flow with that. The capital already exists, but it requires a more strategic.
Uh-oh. Am I frozen? Can y'all hear me?
Can hear you. I thought it was me too, because I started driving again. I think it's Brian.
Yeah, I think it is.
Okay, can y'all see me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna bring it back up. All right. Whoa, back up. This is where I was at. Okay, so what we know is that the capital exists.
Share your
Companies
screen again.
can't see it.
Yeah,
No.
we don't see your screen.
All right, we're gonna try it again. Here, come on, share. Can you see it now?
It's thinking about it. There you go.
Okay, get back in there. All right. So the capital, what we were saying was that the capital already exists. It just now requires a little bit more strategic enjoyment, strategic deployment. State of Georgia already has what they call the Georgia Lottery. We're seeing this around the country where a lot of states are picking up a lottery to help with educational expenses. Georgia brings in about $1.7 billion of what they call unrestricted capital that directly goes into the educational system to help fund projects. You have several Reach scholarships. So this is a need-based mentorship that provides about $10,000 per student. You have the Hope Career Grant. We hope that that stays valuable, but I know that there's some people are talking about getting it, but that's tuition coverage for strategic industries. And then you have what they call it college completion grants that the state provides, which is up to $2,500 with thresholds to be lowered to about 70% for 4-year programs that were then. So the money is there. We got to get the kids there. And so that was why I was like, okay, let's start doing this engineering and IT pipeline where we don't put the cart before the horse. We say, okay, you know what? We're going to train these kids. We're going to, and in my specific case, I'm going to train them in both engineering and computer science. The goal involves having them be receive dual credit and it's already a process that was already initiated by one of my colleagues. So I just had to go through the process of getting it approved through the superintendent ranking where they when they walk into each class, as long as they can pass the certifications, they'll get a credit for engineering and they'll get a credit for computer science. And uh, started trying to get this to go across the board so that they can do it in culinary, they can do it in healthcare science, they can do that in business, they can do it in marketing because they need these skill sets. And leveraging the funding that's already available to make this happen. We gone is the idea that every kid is going to go to college because they're making college less economically viable across the board because of the funding being taken away. So how do we leverage what we're using in order to get this to work the way we need it to work? And that's by aligning the policies that already exist and put it into practice. We can engineer the prosperity on the campus. You got the 30% readiness gap, you got the 39% underutilization, 30% of barriers, and then you got travel constraints. We got to get out of being siloed. Oh, I'm computer science and I sit over here. Oh, I'm engineering and I sit over there. Or I'm marketing and I sit over here. Like we start integrating our classes, having those hard conversations. The federal government sees the value in it because they are passing bills that will help implement it. Now, not everybody agrees on how it's going to be implemented, and that's where the problem comes in. But I know at least in the state of Georgia, we got House Bill 1302 and we got Senate Bill 179, which is literally mandating that, hey, every school is going to have engineering, every school is going to have computer science, every school is going to use these in order to be able to produce the next generation of computer science engineers that are going to be going out into the workforce. They have brought the jobs to Georgia. I know we have 218,000 jobs that are proposed between now and 2050 that are going to be opening up soon. But where the metal is going to meet the road is, are we preparing the kids to be ready for those jobs? And that's where my forward plan is really going into that, is saying, hey, we want our kids to come out with the micro credentials to be able to know that when they walk out, they can apply for those jobs right away. Yeah, equity is not an outcome, it's a design decision. The opportunity is to engineer the infrastructure of prosperity, matching the local talent to the global demand without leaving the campus. I don't want a kid to tell me again that, oh, because I couldn't drive to the community college or I couldn't drive to OEC, that I can't go learn how to fix cars, or I can't go and learn advanced manufacturing, which is what they're being told currently. And so it's like, hey, can't go, let's pull it in the classroom. You see something you want to do over there, let's pull it into the classroom. Let's do it so that you can learn it. Uh, Evaluation must shift from a terminal exam to a real world labor persistence. The old paradigm was that you go to school, you take these tests, you do well, you get a diploma. But in practicality, when we start looking at it, people are not able to find jobs. We got people coming out with college degrees and there's just no job for them. And that creates a huge problem for our society. The Generation A and the Generation Beta that we're currently looking at, they are definitely afraid that now when they come out, those jobs are not the jobs that we're promising right now are not going to be there because they're listening to their parents, which are the previous generations, and they're having a hard time finding jobs. Either one, because the job was not available when they came out of the college ranking, or they didn't have the skill set necessary to get the job. I know when I was in school, one of the biggest issues we had was that, oh, I had the skill set, but I didn't have the experience. They were like, oh, it's this perfect job for me, but I need 15 years of experience before I can even get the job. I'm not knocking the experience. I'm just saying that that was the reality on the ground. So then now, okay, I have 15 years experience, but that job is no longer available. So how do we shift that particular thing? And so I was saying, hey, let's go with the industry focus. Have the industries in the classroom, build the relationships. Um, we are expanding at Tucker High School our industry board, and we are having them come in and actually help us to develop what they're looking for. So I have Tran coming in. I have there's a cookie coming. I can't think of the name of it right now. They're supposed to be coming in next year. But we have several manufacturing facilities that are willing to come in and start talking to the kids about jobs that are available and what skill sets they need in order to be able to do this. I created a partnership with Georgia Tech. I have a partnership with Kennesaw State. I have a partnership with the CS for Georgia, which is not an offshoot CSTA, but they're working to incorporate themselves into it. But we're talking to the businesses. We are working with the legislative community to try to increase the threshold so that we get more exposure, because we want the businesses to lead the way, because we want them to provide the opportunity for the kids. I want to know that when those kids walk out, they're getting a job because the businesses know who they are, and that Georgia's getting the first swing at that particular opportunity. Not trying to knock the other states, but I live in Georgia. So the legislative mandates require true economic integration and a return on investment tracking. Um, so, like I said, with the HB 1302 Education Workforce Strategy Act, they're looking at wage growth. They're tracking it over a 2, a 5, and a 10-year interval post graduation completion. This is already starting. We're being asked as teachers to go out and look at our former students and just track where they are. We're looking at the credential alignment. How many of the students do we have coming out of your program that are in these high demand fields? It's being tracked. The industry retention. They are tracking the businesses who are doing the hiring to see how long the students actually stay in those particular jobs. So this mandate is happening whether we like it or not. And so this was one of the selling points that I put in front of my committee in order to be able to start moving forward. My goal was, when I implemented this in my school, I wanted to use the equipment that we already had. Because I already knew that one of the first things they're going to tell me is that we don't have the money for this. I was like, I have a $150,000 lab that I'm working with right now. Let me run the program, and then we'll talk enhancements after I show you that it works. I was moving from the role of the traditional educator to the pathway engineer. So in my traditional educator role that I did for like the first 15 years of my life. I was focused on content delivery. I was looking at seat time compliance, and I was like, you got to be able to pass this in a pathway. Now I'm, pushing more forward to the diversity and equity. So I'm saying, hey, let's manage these friction points. I need you getting off campus. Let's find problems that exist in our community and let's start coming up with solutions for them. So when I have a group of students who go down to the local 7 tavern and they start interfacing with the manager down there and saying, "Hey, what's the biggest problem that you're having?" And he says, "Oh, well, I'm able to track this, I'm able to track that, but what we're having is we're having an increased number of students who are showing up during lunch. Can you provide me with an app that I can use to be able to track that particular calculation so I can provide data to the local community?" They can bring that information back and we can actually start creating those apps. We want to bridge the foundational gaps by using the Python syntax to counteract the literacy gap. What we do know is that when somebody's actually interested in it, they will do what it takes in order to be able to achieve it. And so using the gamification of the class, using access to the computers, using the AI tools that are available in a strategic and efficient and an ethical way to help them to be able to that we can identify the underlying factors that might be hindering them from being able to move forward. The biggest win that I had was that because my school is primarily people from other countries, is that when they drop a kid in my class and they don't speak the language, I was able to actually leverage AI tools and leverage some of the systems in place to be able to determine, does this kid have a reading problem or is the student just not understanding the language? And by that simple metric, I had an increase of assignments being turned in going from around 57% to about 79%. Now, granted, we're not going to catch everybody, but to me, that was a big win. Then, and this is, oh, stop. This is one of the big hurdles that I'm still dealing with is trying to, stop it. Um, one second, I got something in my face. Okay, get back in there. Um, is trying to get the master schedule under control. My API of instruction, we are fighting tooth and nail because she wants to make me believe that out of the 900 students that we have coming in to our school next year, that no student from a STEM certified school wants to take computer science or engineering. And when I said to her that that math does not add up, she fighting me tooth and nail. And I was like, okay, so why is it that I have at least, 50 students a year come to me and say, I didn't even know that we had the program because I'm being told to take dual enrollment, AP, or IB. Um, and I'm like, well, that's a counseling issue. Apparently, that's an administration issue, and there's a middle school disconnect. So we are going in and we're just trying to work with our counselors so that they understand exactly what the kids are signing up for so that they're not just randomly throwing students in the classroom who don't want to be there. But at the same time, we want to provide a package to where the kids who want to be there can actually see the outcomes. So they'll see the certifications, they'll see the companies looking, coming in and talking to them. They will have the opportunities to go out and get the internships. And go and practice their communication skills with legislators and the city council, and participate in competitions like robotics and um, to be able to actually see the end game of what they're going to do. So by the time they come out, they know exactly where they want to go, they know exactly what they want to do, and they'll have the skill set and the know how to do that. Um, why is my screen share paused? Did it move?
No, I'm not seeing it move. It's not showing up paused on this end.
Okay, let's try this again. Stop that.
Okay.
All right. So let's see. Is it going to act right? Okay. So in the end of all of this, what we're looking for, to do and what the goal is that we're saying, hey, as computer science teachers, for those of us who actually traditionally went through the computer science route, and us as engineering teachers who took computer science and are in the classroom, and the computer science teachers for the people who were thrusted into the position because the school system said, hey, oh, we know you teach math, but you can do computer science. Oh, we know you teach science, but you can do computer science, but you have some years in, is that to try to push for once you get past the threshold of just traditional, I'm going to use Code HS or I'm going to use code.org or I'm going to use a platform, and I'm really ready to step into the realm of systems integration in there, that they have a framework that they can work up under to be able to present this, because we're already doing it. As teachers, we're already doing it. Over the last 2 years, working with the Amazon Future Teacher Organization, working with the Mark Cuban Foundation, and I talked to computer science teachers, and like once they've gotten past year 5, they're like, "Oh, I need this 3D printer. Oh, I need this laser engraver. I need these Arduinos or this micro bits." We're pulling in the technology. I want them to be able to go to their administration, be able to go to their state legislature and say, hey, is it possible for us to, now that we're teaching things that are now beyond the framework of just what we quote unquote say is traditional computer science, can we give them the dual credit? Can my class be classified as an existing math credit or an existing science credit? Can we give them the AP, credential on top of that, so that it incentivizes the students that will definitely be making the next changes in our society to want to come to the class every day, do the things that we're asking them to do. And when they come out, they know that they are providing a skill set and a resource that will help us to be able to meet the needs that our legislatures are already asking for. The jobs are there. It's going to continue to grow. The resources are there. It's going to continue. That stuff is going to continue to happen. The companies want it, so they're willing to put their money where their mouth is. I know, right now we're in a rough spot, but that's going to go away. This is a temporary standard, but I want us. It was a goal to push towards equity outcomes, not just diplomas. And so let's engineer the opportunity using the infrastructure and the prosperity that we're looking at. I want to match local talent with what's available. But I want to do it without leaving the campus, because I'm tired of them saying, oh, well, you have to go off campus in order to get something fun. So I believe that's the end of my presentation. I think so. Yep. So I'm going to stop sharing. Is there any questions?